Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to be learning about one-step equations, and here I have a few examples. So first, we're going to start with an addition example, and I have x plus 7 is equal to 16. So our goal here is to isolate our variable, and by doing so, we'll find out what x is equivalent to, because now all we know is that x plus 7 is equal to 16. So, what we're going to do is we're going to apply the inverse operation to addition, which is subtraction. And that's because if I subtract by 7 here, I'm able to isolate my x. So basically get it by itself so that I could find its value. And whatever I do on the left side here, I'm going to do on the right side. So here, since I'm subtracting by 7, these cancel out because they're inverses of each other. And I'm left with x equals, and now I'm going to do 16 minus 7, which is 9. So x equals 9. So in order to solve a one-step equation with addition, I do have to subtract because that's the inverse, and that's how I could get the x by itself. Here I have a subtraction example. So I have x minus 9 is equal to 42. And what I need to do is I need to isolate my x. So in order to do so, I need to apply the inverse operation. And the inverse operation to subtraction is addition. So I'm going to add 9 and add 9 here. So now with our minus 9 or negative 9 and our plus 9, those are inverses, so they cancel out. That just gives us 0. So x is going to equal 42 plus 9, so 9 plus 2 is 11. Bring up the 1. 4 plus 1 is 5, so x is equal to 51. Down here I have a multiplication example. So even though you don't see a multiplication sign, whenever you see a coefficient in front of a variable like this, it means 3 times the value is equal to 36. Now, I'm sure you could do that in your head, but we're still going to show our work so that when this gets complicated, we'll know what to do. So 3x is equal to 36. Since it's multiplication, the inverse operation is division, so I'm going to divide by 3. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So whatever I do to the left, I do to the right. So 3 divided by 3 is just 1. It's not 0. So I can cross this out because 1x, or just writing x, is the same thing. 36 divided by 3 is 12. So x is equal to 12. And here I have a division problem, so x divided by 6 is equal to 5. So I know a value divided by 6 is equal to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is multiplication. We're going to multiply by 6. And if I do multiply by 6, I end up with 6x over 6. Which the same thing happens that happened here. 6 divided by 6 is 1. I don't need to write 1x because x and 1x are the same thing. And since I multiplied by 6 on the left side, I have to multiply by 6 on the right side. So these cancel out, and I'm left with x is equal to 5 times 6 is 30. So in these 4 problems where I applied my inverse operation to get my answer, if you ever doubt the answer that you get, you could always go back in and substitute to check your work. So for example, in this first problem, my answer was x is equal to 9. If I wasn't too sure, I could go back and write 9 as opposed to x because I'm substituting, plus 7, and that equals 16. So because that's true, I know I did my work correctly. Here, I got x is equal to 51. If I wanted to go back and check my work, I would substitute x for 51. So 51 minus 9. and that does equal 42. So that's how I know I got my answer right. And here, if I wanted to check my work, I would do 3 times 12 because it's 3x, and remember that's multiplication. 3 times 12 is equal to 36, so that is right. And then here I have x divided by 6, so 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5, so that's how I could check that. And that's how you check your answer. So you just substitute whatever answer you got back into the original problem, and you should get a true statement. So now let's work with some word problems. So Sam has $27 in his bank account. He then made X amount of dollars after his shift. Sam now has a total of $139 in his bank account. How much money did he make? So I know that he started off with $27 in his bank account, so I'm going to write that down. And then he made X amount of dollars, so he gains money, so I'm going to write plus X. So if he lost, I would do minus, but because he gains money, I'm going to put plus X is equal to Sam now has a total of $139 in his bank account. So I'm going to write 139. So I have 27 plus X is equal to 139. And in order to start solving this, I need to apply my inverse operation. Now, this isn't in the same order as we saw our previous example. Here I had the X first. But nonetheless, this is still a positive 27. So the opposite of a positive is a negative, and I could actually rewrite this as x plus 27 is equal to 139 if that makes it easier. Or you could just subtract by 27 because we know we want to isolate the x, so we're going to leave the x alone and try to get rid of the 27. So if I subtract by 27 here, I know that will equal 0 and x will be by itself. So if I do minus 27 on the left side, then I have to subtract by 27 on the right side. And I know that this is 0, so that cancels out. And on the left side, I'm left with x is equal to, and now we're going to do 139 minus 27. 9 minus 7 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1, and 1 minus 0 is 1. So we got 112. And let's go back and see what 112 means in this problem. So it said, how much money did he make? So he started off with $27, and then we found out that he made $112 during his shift, so plus 112. And if we do add those two numbers, we get 139, which is how much money he has now. So he made $112 after his shift. And we could substitute 112 for x to make sure that we got the right answer. So Sally has x candies and then ate 7. She now has 12 candies. How many did she start with? So here, Sally starts with x candies. And then she ate 7, so we're going to take away 7 from the amount she started with. She now has 12 candies. So how many did she start with? So x minus 7 is equal to 12. And so this is subtraction. So in order to get x by itself, we're going to add 7 on the left side because addition is the inverse of subtraction. Add 7 to the 12. So here I have x. These two are 0, so they cancel out, equals 12 plus 7 is 19. So Sally has X candies. That's how many she started off with. And if I wanted to check my work, I would substitute for X. 19 minus 7 is equal to 12. That is true, so my answer is correct. So Sally started off with 19 candies. And that's it. Julie has X dollars in her bank account, and Rose has 3 times what Julie has. If Rose has $27, how much money does Julie have? So Julie starts off with X dollars in her bank account. So I'm just going to write X. And Rose has 3 times what Julie has. So this is what Julie has. And Rose has 3 times what Julie has, and she has $27. So here, 3x represents what Rose has, and x represents what Julie has. In this problem, 3 times the amount that Julie would have is $27 because that's how much Rose has. So if I solve for x, then I would know how much money Julie has. So here I have 3 times x is equal to 27. This is a multiplication problem, and the inverse operation is division. So I'm going to divide by 3 on the left side, and whatever I do on the left side, I'm going to do on the right side. So I end up with, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1x is the same thing as x, so I don't have to write 1x. X is equal to 27 divided by 3 is 9. So x is equal to 9. X represents the amount of money that Julie has. And before we write our sentence out, if we did 3 times 9, we would get 27, making that true. So Julie has $9 in her bank account. And that's it. So last example, Dominic has X pounds of ferret food. He splits the food evenly between his 2 ferrets. If there are 32 pounds of food for each ferret, how much ferret food does he start off with? So he has X pounds of food, and he splits it, so we're going to divide evenly between his 2 ferrets, and each ferret gets 32 pounds of food. So here we want to find out how much ferret food does he start off with. So in order to do so, here I have x divided by 2. The inverse operation to division is multiplication, so I'm going to multiply by 2. And whatever I do on the left, I'm going to do on the right. I'm going to multiply by 2 here. So here I have 2x divided by 2. Remember again that 2 divided by 2 is 1. And I don't have to write 1x because 1x and x are the same thing. X is equal to, and now I have 32 times 2, which is 64. And if we go back and check our work, 64 divided by 2 is equal to 32, so that makes this true. So Dominic starts off with 64 pounds of ferret food. Okay, and that's it.